What is up, everybody? This is usually the point where I yell, wake up, because we're doing a podcast, but this is also a video wrap-up after Thursday's practice, which Ira and Corey Clark were able to witness firsthand in person, so I'm not going to yell that, but do welcome into the show. It is Wake Up Warchant. It's also a video. We are fueled by DeLuna Coffee, DeLunaCoffee.com. Come explore our world of coffee. Promo code is still effective. It's still running. It's for our first-time subscribers. FSU Spring 2021, 50% off an annual membership and a $25 e-card to Garnet and Gold. If you're watching us here on YouTube, hit the thumbs up. Listening to us on YouTube, thumbs up. Would appreciate the like. If you're on iTunes, 5-star rating and a review would be much appreciated. All right, guys. Hello, first off. Ira, I know you had a rough Thursday after a long day at the field. Thanks for toughing it out with us. Corey's here as well, obviously. I'll start with you then, Ira. I got a little bit of an idea of what kind of question I want to ask you, but I just think we need to probably start at quarterback. And I know they're not in pads. They'll be in pads on Friday. But what was kind of your feel? Corey, we'll get to him, but Corey did a great job logging, I think, pretty much every rep, 7-on-7, 11-on-11. But what did the eyes, the eagle eyes of 5-star Irish O'Fell see on Thursday?
Well, first of all, it was good to be out there. I mean, it was good to be. I do need some DeLuna coffee, though. It's been a long day. I'm not used to spending 3 hours at football practice. And Jeff, our good friend Jeff Cameron, and I got there early, and we kind of snuck in. I guess we weren't supposed to be in as early as we did. They hadn't started yet, but just gave us some extra time to just stand around. But it was good to be back out there. It's been a year since we've been able to watch a football practice, so that was cool. Obviously everybody's attention's on the quarterbacks. I thought they all looked decent. I didn't think any of them looked bad. The passing game overall did not look very good, but it's the second day of spring practice. There was a lot of timing wasn't great. Some overthrown balls, some underthrown balls. Receivers did not play well. I thought Mike Norvell. One big takeaway from today is that Mike Norvell seems pretty honest with his post-practice observations, because that was one of the first things he talked about, was that the receivers had a lot of drops. He was not happy with them. He even said he wants to see more out of Ontario Wilson and Keyshawn Helton, the veterans, who I thought were decent. They were solid, but he wants to see them take it to an even higher level. So for the last year, since Mike Norvell's been here, we've gotten his synopsis of practice, but we haven't seen it. So it was good to hear him kind of reflect what we saw, which was kind of a tough day for the passing game. The DBs won a lot of those individual battles. We could talk more about McKenzie Milton, how he looked health-wise. I thought Jordan Travis, to me, of the quarterbacks, I really liked the way Jordan played. I thought he looked really solid. But he's also got a year in the system that McKenzie Milton doesn't have. So overall, it's probably nothing too crazy, but nothing to really overreact to, I think, as far as the second day of practice.
Any of this going on, Corey? Any finger wagging them DBs, breaking the passes up and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, you look, and they had a lot of opportunities to do a finger wag because they broke up a lot of passes and had a lot of incompletions, like even in one-on-ones, which usually receivers should dominate one-on-ones. Yeah. They did not do anything, really. They got flat out dominated by the DBs. So it should have been a finger wag party. It should have been a bonanza of finger wags, but I didn't see a ton of them. So, and again, I'd like to apologize. This isn't for the podcast necessarily, but I do apologize for my backdrop. I promise I'm not being held hostage. The date is March 11th, 2021. It's, just know that I am getting a backdrop. It will look better. I see Ira with all his cool stuff. Aslan's got all his cool stuff. And then it looks like I'm a squatter. Like I just found a home that's for sale and I loaded up on the Wi-Fi. But yeah, I agree with Ira. Well, you have to agree with Ira on this. The receivers just weren't good, period. They didn't do anything that really stood out other than drop some passes. Those were memorable. But overall, I think the one-on-ones, Ira was the most startling.
It was good that you pointed that out, because usually, one of the reasons I don't love keeping stats or writing stats on our site after practice when we were able to see one-on-ones is because receivers should win those all the time. I mean, it should be, as Corey said, it should be there's no pass rush really. There's receivers know what routes they're running. The DBs don't have any help from a safety or linebacker. They're on an island. It's really tough, and they didn't complete many of those at all. And there was a couple of things that like there's a couple of bright moments, but also like sad or down. The downside is that they couldn't make the play. On the positive side, Corey Wren is really fast. And there was a play where I mean, he gets by a guy by like 10 yards. I mean, it looks like he's going to walk into the end zone, but the ball is underthrown. And instead of really coming back and fighting for it, he just kind of lets the DB.
Who threw it? Who threw the under?
I didn't get a great view of it.
I wrote about it, Ira. I know you haven't read it yet, but I wrote about that play. It was McKenzie Milton that threw it, and it was Travis Jay that he ran by. He made Travis Jay look like Ira.
Yeah.
That's how fast Corey Wren is. Like, he sprinted. And as I wrote, I don't even think he did like a move or a stutter step. He just said, this is my speed. I'm running straight ahead. And he blazed past him, which and then the ball was underthrown or maybe thrown late. But either way, it almost hits Travis Jay back. But more important to me than the throw being completed was you got to see Wren's speed, like what that looks like. And we don't know if he's going to win a Heisman, might win 2 Heismans. But that speed, they don't have a ton of elite speed on the offensive side of the ball. That speed is elite. I don't know if it's going to translate into a lot of plays on a football field, but I hadn't seen him before run. And now we got to see it. And you're like, okay, there you go. I see that. And another guy – oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and after the play, Mike Norvell went over to him and talked to him. Didn't yell at him, but I think he was just saying, hey, man, it's cool that you're wide open, but if the ball's not coming to you, you need to – I mean, I'm assuming that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
We're 150 yards away. But, it's a teaching moment, just like – I mean, and I think Corey is probably going to talk about Kentron Portier, but same type of thing. You see there's so much potential, but just didn't really come up with many plays.
He had just made, and it was in 7-on-7, Milton was throwing, and he had just made a really good catch on the sideline. Athletic went up over a DB, came down inbounds. In the very next play, I don't know if it was an out and up or a slant and up, but he gets by the defender and it's 4 yards open. Milton drops it into his breadbasket. It should be perfect a walk-in touchdown. It goes right through his hands. So when I was calculating the numbers, and in the story, I caution everyone, like, look, they're mixing and matching personnel. They're mixing and matching routes. You can't say it's not apples to apples comparison that Jordan Travis was like 8 of 10 and McKenzie Milton was 4 of 10. Well, McKenzie Milton should have been 6 of 10 for 120 yards and a touchdown, but he had a kid drop a wide open touchdown, and Portier dropped another one on a slant. There was a really well thrown ball by Milton. Milton, it gets out quick. Like, that's the one thing I noticed with him in 7-on-7 and 11-on-11. It's a little shot putty, but it's fine. It works for him. Phillip Rivers, I mean, nobody's ever thrown a football like that, and he does well with it. It's a little shot putty, but he gets it out really quick. But yeah, you could see that he's still getting back into the swing of things, and he is not. He might be able to use his legs some this year coming up to scramble and make some plays, but he is not Chubba Purdy or Jordan Travis. Those two guys are different levels of athleticism. Jordan Travis had a 50-yard run, as well as you said, Ira. That wasn't even the thing about Jordan Travis, I thought, on Thursday. He just seemed kind of calm and poised in the pocket.
Yeah.
Made most of the nice reads. He had a couple that really got away from him, but he only had 2 incompletions. Chubba, I think, was like 7 of 8, but they were all to the running backs. So, again, take that for what it's worth. No interceptions by any of the guys. And Jordan Travis also had a 50-yard run. Chubba really showed a burst on a zone read where he kept it and ran through a hole, and he was 20 yards downfield before people even knew he had the ball, it seemed like. He really moved on that play. But overall, the receivers just got dominated. They just got to be better. Luckily, it's the beginning of March, and it's the beginning of spring practice, and they have a chance to get better. And were you even surprised, really? Because they are so young. Like, the DBs aren't great, but the DBs are experienced and have a lot of game experience. These guys have done, other than Keyshawn and Pokey, none of these guys have done anything. So the DBs should be ahead of them.
Yeah, and like I said, I thought Keyshawn and Ontario looked fine.
Yeah.
They weren't great, but they looked fine. I think Brian Robinson's a guy that we want to see more of. He didn't, do a whole lot today to really stand out, but he also didn't have any awful drops. Going back to so I'm not too surprised about it. You also have to remember they're going to get Andrew Parchment, the transfer from Kansas, who I think is going to be a real key player for them. The 2 freshman receivers, the true freshmen, the early enrollees, they're impressive physically. Joshua Burrell, I mean, looks like he's going to be an Anquan Bolden physically. I mean, he is really put together. Malik McLean is long and sleek. Those guys look the part. I think they're going to be really good in the future. But the question is just how much can they attribute now. One thing I wanted to touch on with McKenzie, and I'll throw it back to you, Aslan. This is your show. I'm just
fine, man. This is good. Well, I want to hear it. I wasn't there either, man. Come on.
I wanted to get back to the thing about McKenzie and running. No, he's not. I mean, I don't know how athletic he was before. Obviously, he ran well before his injury. But what I did like about it is he didn't seem to be too cautious about it. There was a play, he did a lot of the footwork drills that everybody else was doing and all that. And then there was a play where he got flushed out of the pocket and was rolling to his right. And I kind of thought, man, he may just want to eat it, because if he's going to try to throw it, he's going to have to really put torque on that leg. He was rolling out, planted with the knee that had the catastrophic injury to, planted on that leg and threw across his body to throw the ball. It wasn't a great pass. It wasn't completed, but he jumped off of that bad leg, landed on it, and didn't think twice. I mean, like, he wasn't hesitant about it or anything like that. So he seems confident about it. I think that's a good sign. Now, to your point, yeah, I probably expected a little bit more athleticism from him, just because we saw the numbers and some of the plays he made before, that we didn't see that today. But he doesn't seem to be too hesitant with it, which is a good sign.
Right.
What about some of the other transfers, guys, whether it's Jermaine Johnson or Brandon Moore, defensive back, our guy Jarquez from Arkansas, any of those other guys? I don't want to say make an impression, but did you kind of make an effort to see how they were doing at practice?
I know Moore had it at a pass breakup, and Jermaine Johnson jumps off the field at you, man. Just he's the part number one. He's 6'5", and what is he? I don't know if he's listed at 245 or 255, but he is a big dude, and he really comes off the edge quick. They haven't had one of those in a while, and he, to me anyway, and it's sparingly. Look, you're talking about he was probably on the field for 10 or 12 team plays, and it's also, granted, it's not in pads. So everything has to be taken with a grain of salt.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. But there's nobody that can block him if he's not going to wear pads, because there's nothing to grab onto. I mean, he's untouchable. But as Corey said, I mean, he looks like, if you walked out there and you said, okay, who could line up? Like, he could walk in Alabama's locker room tomorrow and nobody would think he's out of place.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks like that kind of guy, and he's got that burst. Sorry.
And then DJ Williams, the running back from Auburn. I guess I didn't realize how big he was. Maybe I just don't look at rosters. He's enormous. He's like listed at 6'2", 227, and he's every bit of that. And he's got some burst to him too now. And Chubba Purdy threw him the ball, I believe, I want to say 46 times in a row during the team drills. Like, literally, it was just Chubba looks, and then dumps it to the left to DJ for a 6-yard gain. But he showed good hands. I think he had one drop out of like 7. He had a 25-yard run where he really hit a hole hard. And it's those, when I say 25 yards, they're not being tackled. When anybody gets close to him, they blow him dead. Like Jordan Travis got sacked by Quayshawn Fuller, where I don't know if that's really a sack, but he got touched and they blew the play dead. But still, the point remains, there was a hole and he hit it hard. And he's a big boy, man. I did not know he looked quite like that. But he's by far the biggest one they got. And you got to figure they'll have a spot for him. And before we get out of here, I don't know how long we want to do this, but Jackson West, to me, again, we've talked about him before, but he looks the part, man. Again, that doesn't mean he's going to be the part, but he's whatever he's listed at 6'4", 245, and he can move, and he's only going to get bigger and stronger, and you would assume faster, being on a college campus with a college training staff. So he was, to me, was very impressive physically the first day that I got to see him.
A couple of the disappointment, I guess, a little bit is Keir Thomas, and Coach Adam Fuller talked about it afterwards, that he's not fully healthy right now, so he can't do a whole lot. So we didn't get to see much of him. And I don't think we saw Jarquez. I don't remember seeing him. I don't know if you did, Corey, but I don't remember seeing him.
I did a little bit. I did not see Miko Dotson at all. I didn't see him play at all.
But I mean, you see that the depth. Jamie Robinson, the kid from South Carolina, who's going to be the nickel back, we saw him walk in by himself because, like I said, we were there early, and that kid's lower body is ridiculous. I mean, he almost looks like a linebacker.
Yeah.
When he's playing nickelback, he almost looks like a linebacker. His thighs are so thick. He's just really developed his lower body, and I think he can help you in the run support. That's the only thing about the nickel is you wonder sometimes, our team's going to just pound it on you. But I think, he's got some good size to him. And then, I thought the Kevin Noles kid they had playing there as well, which Adam Fuller talked about afterwards. People can watch that video that they're kind of giving him a look at nickel, but that may not be where he ends up. It's early. I guess another thing that we really want to see, but you can't see right now, is we touched on earlier, is just the line play. There were some new developments. Thomas Schrader was working a lot at center, which we know they're going to cross train guys. We'll see how he does. They sounded like they were pretty happy with him today. And then watching the one-on-one pass rush drills, again, it's just hard to say because the offensive linemen are at such a disadvantage without being able to touch anybody. Having said that, though, I thought Darius Washington looked good in some of the reps we saw from him, and even old Chaz Neal saw one a rep or two, so that was good to see.
Okay, nice.
DJ Williams, by the way, 5'10", 222. Well, but that's low center of gravity, as Norvell.
So he's 5'10". All right, yeah. So he's not 6'2". He's 5'10", but still, that makes him even squattier and thicker. It's something, man. I didn't know that was the body type that had transferred in.
Yeah, Corey, I think you fell off the Zoom call at one point. I don't know if you were there for the players, but just Emmett Rice and who else did we get? We got
Jarvis Brownlee.
Jarvis Brownlee are the two players that we got after practice, as well as Adam Fuller. And hey, asking me like in 6 months, I do like Adam Fuller. He's a nice guy. He really is. But 6 months from now, I might be punching holes in drywall and stuff because of Adam Fuller. So, but with the players, I thought it was kind of pretty raw and opening to hear the way that Emmett Rice was talking about the difference between last year and this year. He said that last year the coaches were on eggshells around the players because they didn't quite know how to handle the players or what buttons to push and how to motivate them and how much different things are. He also talked about year two, same scheme, same terminology. That's kind of a lift. I don't know how those words struck both of you, or if that was visible. I mean, was it a different kind of a different feel? I know you guys were 30 feet up in the air and 150 yards away from them, but did you see any of that kind of stuff on display, I guess?
It's hard to know, right, Ira, about the different feel because we didn't get to see it. Oh, by the way, so people love this. So I was texting you guys about who I saw on the starting offensive line. And I was like, well, you can't report that because we're not allowed to do rotational stuff, depth charts. And I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't see the email. And he's like, it's not an email. It's always been like that. Every practice I'm like, oh, we haven't covered anything in 365 years. A lot's happened in the last 12 months, dude. Days. Days. A lot's happened in the last 12 months. I don't recall the spring policy from 2020 before the world blew up. But anyway, so with that in mind, I don't even remember what I was talking about. Go ahead, Ira. Oh no, I did but seeing them on the field, man, there is no wasted movement. There's no wasted minute. There wasn't even a break. I don't even think they had a break.
They didn't. I was going to
certainly
bring that
not
up.
A dance party, but they didn't have a break at all. They went from period to period, from position to position, and when they move, like they started it, and I texted you this, that when they started it, they come out of the IPF and sprint to period 3 on the field, and Norvell comes out sprinting and Robert Scott is sprinting with them. He's like, don't let me beat you, Robbie. Don't let me beat you, Robbie, as he's sprinting with them to the spot on the field where they're starting their drills. And it's like that for 23 periods. It's like that for 2 hours. It's from every 5 minutes when they go to a different drill, it is screams from coaches, get there, get there, get there. Norvell keeps saying on the hop. But he's screaming. His voice just bellows over everything. And there is an energy there. Like, again, I can't quite recall what it was like in March of 2020 because who can recall anything about that month? But it was noticeable how there's no wasted movement, there's no wasted moments, and it's very, very urgent from period to period.
Well, I guess that's kind of the point of Emmett trying to say that, like, Mike Norvell in January of 2020 could have laid out how he wants practice to go. But I'm sure they, might have rolled their eyes at some stuff, but to actually have lived it for 9 months, whether those 3 practices, some of the offseason stuff, and then throughout the entire fall, like to come back and now know what they have to do. Just I imagine they have to be so much more efficient and just so much more dialed in, Ira.
Yeah, so the energy point, I mean, it is obvious. I mean, we haven't seen that much of this team practice, this program, but we've seen football practices before, and this was definitely very fast and intense. And that was one of the things Norvell kind of made a little bit of an excuse for with the young wide receivers or the receivers in general, was that he did feel like maybe part of the problem with the drops was just the intensity was ramped up, the tempo was ramped up. It sounded like they intentionally went faster today than maybe the guys expected, just because they wanted to kind of test it and see. And some of them failed, obviously. But back to your thing about Adam Fuller and wanting to like him, I think that, I thought his answers for the most part were good. I thought he's another one. He's very honest. He talked about guys at different positions that need to step up. He defended Travis Jay, though, I thought was good. He talked about how Travis Jay, because he didn't get to practice much last year because he was hurt, his failures happened on the field in games as opposed to on practice and learning through it. I thought that was pretty insightful. And then to your point, I love Emmett Rice. It'd be great if we interviewed him all the time. When I did a story on him last week, and one of his quotes in there was, he said, the great thing about this team is we don't have any energy takers. We don't have anybody on the team that, the guys that complain and bitch and moan that take your energy. We don't have those guys anymore. And, I think you see some of that.
I like the line that we had to be deprogrammed before we could be reprogrammed. So I thought that was pretty illuminating as well.
Who said that? Did Emmett say that?
Emmett Rice. Yeah.
Man, he's gold. He's gold, man. We should talk to him every week, every day.
He is.
Any other things you want to touch on, Corey, that I did not maybe get to?
Can I tell a quick Emmett Rice story real quick?
Please.
So this is pretty funny. So remember when they went down to Aslan, you may remember this. I don't know if you were there that day, Corey, but when they went down to IMG for those practices under the former coaching staff, and but then they had the lightning delay.
Yeah.
And there was no indoor facility, so they had to go back and just sit in the locker room for 3 hours. Yeah. And I was walking behind Emmett Rice and a staff member, and Emmett at the point was like a sophomore. I mean, he might have been a redshirt sophomore, but he wasn't like a 5th or 6th year senior like he is now. And he's walking with a staff member, a full-time, fully employed staff member, and he goes to him and he goes, imagine if I told you that we left our campus where we have an indoor facility from times when there's inclement weather to drive 4 hours to this place where we don't have an indoor facility. What would you think if I told you that? And the staff member just was like shaking his head. It was really funny. So yeah, I think Emmett might be more on board with the current regime.
I like it. All right. By the way, Joel Davis, Khalil Young, Willie Johnson, find my email. It's aslan@warchant.com. Shoot me an email. It's very important. Ira, hey man, thanks so much for doing this. Your insight's always great, man. Just I guess, what was it like to be back out there, guys? Just to be around a football practice, man. The sights, the sounds, man.
It was beautiful. It was. I was taking it all in, like the grunts and the screams and the whistles from the coaches and the air horns. It was just like it fills you up with emotion, and you start to get a little choked up. Then you see somebody drop a pass. You hear that, and you're like, man, this is just beautiful. And then you see somebody drop a pass, and you're like, here we go again. Here we go. Great. Guess it doesn't change, so you get right back into like, man, what is this sometimes? But overall, it was really cool, and I'm really appreciative that we got to watch it.
Yeah, we do appreciate Mike Norvell and his staff for letting us out there. The one other thing you're reminded of is that there's a lot of dead time in a practice in terms of like anything interesting happening. There's periods where the linemen are working on fundamentals, the DBs are working, they got special teams going on. And, Gene is texting Corey and I, hey, we need some updates for the message boards because we're doing people, if you're not on the site at warchant.com, we're doing live updates on the message boards. And Gene's calling for updates. And we're like, hey, man, they're not doing anything. I mean, they're doing stuff, but nothing anybody would care about. So, but yeah.
Maurice Smith just pushed a walk-on about 4 yards during a blocking drill who was holding a bag. So I guess we could say that. That's what you're seeing for 45 minutes.
Corey, we won't name him, but Corey said it looked like one scholarship lineman was about to get cut today. Alex Atkins wasn't thrilled with at least one of his guys. So
yeah, very early on. He's like, you're getting close. So it's good, man. Watching him, I sat over there.
He's awesome.
For 10 to 15 minutes, just watching him do his trade, and it's really fun to watch.
Yeah.
But real quick, so Corey, as he said, his observations, he's got a story with his observations that's coming up. And by the time people see this, it may already be up on the site. And then I'll have another story coming as well. And then I think we're back out there tomorrow. And hopefully Aslan will get you out there soon too. So people understand they're limiting how many people can be out there because of social distancing. So we can't all be out there every day, but Aslan, you and Gene will be out there at some point soon too.
Oh, it's fine. It's easier for me to be at the crib, man, so I can record everything, so I don't have to be in the car or whatever. So Appreciate it. But yeah, maybe I'll get out there one of these days. Again, Joel Davis, Khalil Young, Willie Johnson. Get at me. Arf, arf, the way DMX would do it. Also, shout out Lonnie Alameda and the softball team. They took down number 2 Arizona 4-2 on Thursday night.
Get you some Wildcats.
I actually caught a really cool play. Their defense is ridiculous. We've seen so many of those plays. But as I was walking to the garage after the interviews, there was a play that I think the second baseman, there was a rocket shot up the middle. It might have been the shortstop. It was right up the middle. They ended up getting a play on they forced a girl out. Or no, they got a girl that got too far off at third to end an inning. And it's crazy, man. Like the stands are not full because of social distancing, but the garage, those people that hang out in the garage are still there.
Yeah.
The people who stand on the street. That softball program has a fan base, man. It's a
good crowd. It was a good crowd, a loud crowd too.
Yeah, they're 12-4 now. That's Arizona's only their second loss of the season. They're number 2 in the nation. Catherine Sandercock, third complete game of the season. 7 hits, 2 runs, 4 Ks. She's 6-1 on the year. So 2 wins over top 5 teams. So that's super cool. We'll let Ira go. Corey and I will be back to talk about basketball on the podcast. So be on the lookout for that. If you're watching the video, that's a wrap. Thanks, gentlemen.